Raymond was a very wealthy man. He had everything: luxurious mansions, countless cars, and more money than he could ever spend. But deep down, he wasn't happy. What he truly longed for was someone who would love him for who he was and not for his riches. He had grown tired of meeting women who were only interested in his wealth. He wanted genuine love. So one lonely night, as he sat alone in his grand mansion, he came up with an idea. He would disguise himself as an okada rider. That way, no one would recognize him as a billionaire. He would just be an ordinary man, riding people around the city. And if a woman fell in love with him like that, he would know that it was real love. The very next morning, Raymond bought an old okada. It wasn't new, and it made strange noises when it moved. But that was exactly what he needed. He dressed in plain, simple clothes and hit the road, waiting to see who would step on his bike. At first, the experience was thrilling. Raymond picked up passengers from all walks of life. Some were quiet, others wouldn't stop talking, and a few smiled at him politely. But he could tell that none of them truly saw him for who he was. To them, he was just the rider, an okada rider and nothing more. Then, one hot Monday morning, while waiting for a passenger near the busy junction, a young woman stormed out of a pharmacy with tears in her eyes, nearly colliding with him. "Madame, easy now," Raymond said, steadying her. She looked up at him, confused, scared, but beautiful. He had no idea in that moment that his search for true love had just begun. Raymond watched her closely, his grip still firm on her arm. Her eyes, red from crying, held a mixture of fear and exhaustion. "I'm sorry," she muttered, pulling her hand away and wiping her face quickly. "Are you all right?" he asked gently. The woman looked at him for a moment, like she was debating whether to speak or not. Then she turned her face away. "I'm fine," she said, her voice tight, as if forcing strength she didn't have. She tried to walk past him, but something about her made Raymond to stop her again. "Please, let me help you. I won't hurt you," he stammered. She turned back and gave a dry, sad chuckle. "That's exactly what they all say." Raymond laughed softly. "Fair point," he replied, lifting his hands in surrender. "But I promise you, I just want to help." There was a long curse before she finally whispered, "I just lost my job. My mother is sick, and I can't afford the drugs." Raymond's heart sank. This wasn't the regular type of rich girl he would meet at champagne brunches and art exhibitions. This was a real woman, struggling with life. He looked into her eyes and knew this wasn't just a random encounter. This was fate. "Get on," he said, pointing to his bike. "Let me take you home." She hesitated for a moment, then climbed on. As they sped off, Raymond couldn't help but smile. For the first time in a long while, he felt something real stirring in his chest, something he hadn't felt in years. He didn't even know her name yet, but somehow she already mattered. As Raymond navigated the bumpy roads with the mystery woman clinging to his back, he could feel her heartbeat against him. It wasn't just fear, it was pain, deep and overwhelming. He slowed the bike when they reached a quieter street lined with worn buildings and cracked pavements. "Is this your street?" he asked, glancing back. She nodded. "Third compound after the green kiosks." He parked outside the faded building and helped her down. "Thank you," she mumbled, adjusting her worn-out handbag. "You didn't have to." Raymond shook his head. "I wanted to. So tell me, what's your name?" She hesitated, then answered softly. "Amara." "Amara," he repeated. "Beautiful name." "I'm Ray." He stopped himself before adding Raymond or Kafo, remembering the life he left behind. She gave a faint smile. "Thank you again, Ray, for everything." Just then, a coughing sound came from inside the house. Amara turned sharply. "My mom," she said, panic creeping into her voice. She rushed inside, and Raymond followed without thinking. Inside was a small, poorly lit room with a frail woman lying on a thin mattress. Mama, I got you the medicine, Amara said, kneeling before her. Raymond stood at the door, watching the scene, quietly. He had seen wealth, he had seen power and glamour, but nothing had ever touched him like this moment. In that cramped room, Raymond knew his mission had changed. He no longer just wanted to find love, he wanted to protect Amara. Raymond stood quietly, his tall frame nearly touching the low ceiling of Amara's one-room apartment. He watched as Amara carefully helped her mother sip some water before administering the medicine. Her hands were gentle, her movements patient. She didn't complain, she didn't cry, she just cared. And for Raymond, she was the best soul he had ever met. After a while, Amara stood up and turned to him. "Thank you for today," she said softly. "I don't even know how to repay you." Raymond gave a small smile. "You don't have to repay me, Amara. Just give me a chance to be your friend. You want to be my friend? But I'll only end up being a burden to you." Raymond shrugged. "Maybe, and maybe not. A trial will convince you." Amara chuckled bitterly. "I understand what you're saying, but I have a sick mother to cater for, and other problems which I wouldn't want to rub off on you." "Look," Raymond said, stepping closer. "I don't know what life has thrown at you, but I want to help. Not as someone who pities you, but as someone who genuinely cares about you." Her eyes searched his face for any sign of deception, but found none. He meant every word. She finally nodded. "All right, friends," she said with a small, reluctant smile. Just then, her mother stared in bed and whispered, "Who is that handsome young man, Amara?" Amara laughed for the first time in days. "It's nothing, Mama. He's just a friend who showed up when I needed help." But deep inside her, something told her this man was no ordinary friend. The next morning, Raymond was back at the junction. His okada helmet rested on the handlebars. But he wasn't looking for passengers. He was looking for her, Amara. He watched the street like someone guarding treasure. When she finally appeared, carrying a small basin of oranges to sell, his heart lifted. She almost didn't notice him until he called. "Good morning, Amara." She turned, surprised, and gave a shy wave. "You came back?" "Of course," he said. "Friends don't disappear after one day, do they?" She smiled, but didn't stop working. "I have to sell before noon or I won't make enough for lunch." "Then, let me give you a ride," he offered. "You can save your energy." She hesitated, then nodded and climbed on. As he rode through the market with her on the back, whispers followed them like shadows. Market women stared. "Who be that fine okada man carrying Amara?" one woman asked. She don't get boyfriend," another joked. But their gossip turned into concern when Mama Nkechi, an older vendor, pulled Amara aside after she got down. "Be careful, my dear," she warned. "These handsome men with sweet mouths, they don't steal, they use and vanish." Amara nodded silently, her face clouded with doubt. Could, could Raymond really be trusted? Why was he so nice? What did he want from her? Raymond watched from a distance as Amara disappeared into the crowd. He knew winning her heart wasn't going to be easy, but one thing was certain: he wouldn't stop trying. Raymond parked his bike near a quiet food joint and sat under a mango tree, sipping cold pure water from a sachet. The weight of his double life pressed heavily on his shoulders. He had built empires, he had dined with CEOs, and walked red carpets. But here he was, wearing a second-hand t-shirt, pretending to be a struggling rider just to find someone who could love him without his wealth. Was it worth it? Meanwhile, Amara stood at her orange stall, distracted. She should have been shouting, sweet orange, like the other girls. But her mind was far from the business. She kept glancing at the road, wondering if Raymond would come back. And when he did, smiling like always, she couldn't help the butterflies that stirred in her belly. "Busy day?" he asked, helping her adjust a basket. "Not really," she said, sighing. "The oranges are good, but my thoughts are sore." Raymond chuckled. "What if I told you I've been thinking of you all day?" She rolled her eyes but blushed slightly. "You you really know how to talk, Abby?" Just then, a black SUV rolled past and honked. Raymond stiffened. It was his cousin, Kenneth, one of the few people who knew the truth. The SUV paused briefly, and Kenneth stared at him with a puzzled, amused look before driving off. Amara didn't notice, but Raymond did. His heart skipped. If word got out that the billionaire here was playing Okada boy, it could ruin everything. That night, Raymond couldn't sleep. That brief moment when Kenneth's SUV slowed down still haunted his thoughts. Kenneth was his cousin, his best friend and business partner, but he was also the last person who would keep quiet if he saw something interesting. Raymond knew that look on his face. Curious, calculating, and dangerous. Sure enough, the next afternoon, Kenneth called him. "So, billionaire turned Okada rider?" he teased. "Ray, have you finally lost your mind?" Raymond sighed. "It's not what you think, Ken. I'm just trying to find true love. Someone who doesn't care about status or money." Kenneth laughed. "True love? In this country? I doubt if that word even exists." "Come on, Ray. Why are you doing this to yourself? With your status and wealth, you can have any woman you want. Why settle for the gutters? All women are the same." Raymond was quiet. "Amara is not a gutter girl. She has a heart of gold, unlike other girls I've met," he said. There was silence. Then Kenneth said, "All right, cousin, let's test your Cinderella. If she's truly different from other girls and not after your money, like you said, she won't fall for me, right? So, is it a deal?" Raymond thought for a long time. Then he agreed. 2 days later, Amara was walking home when a sleek black SUV pulled up beside her. The window rolled down to reveal a polished young man in designer sunglasses. "You must be Amara," Kenneth said with a smile. "I'm a friend of Ray. I've heard about your mother's condition. Please, allow me to help." Amara hesitated, suspicious. "Why would you help me?" "You don't even know me." Kenneth smiled again, charming and confident. "Because Ray talks about you like you are gold, and anyone he cares about deserves to be treated right." Before she could object, he handed her a white envelope. "For your mother's medication. Don't argue, please." That night, Amara stared at the envelope, confused. Inside was 200,000 naira in crypt notes. Who exactly was Ray? And why was his friend treating her like royalty? Amara paced her room, the envelope still clutched in her hands. She didn't know what to do. No man had ever given her that kind of money. without asking for something in return. It felt wrong. Yet, her mother was coughing again, in the corner, too weak to sit up. The drugs had finished, and the doctor had warned her that any delay could lead to complications. She finally sighed, opened the envelope, and rushed to the pharmacy. When she returned, her mother could breathe easier. For the first time in weeks, Amara watched her mother sleep peacefully. Gratitude filled her chest, but so did confusion. Who was Kenneth, really? And why did he care so much? The next morning, Kenneth returned. This time, he came with groceries, fruit baskets, and a brand new wrapper for her mother. "It's nothing," he said, as Amara stood at the door speechless. "Let me be your friend too." Raymond watched from a distance, parked 2 streets away, on his okada, his helmet covering his face. He had asked Kenneth to help test her loyalty, but watching it unfold made his chest to ache. Kenneth was smooth, rich, and confident. Everything he himself was hiding. And worse, Amara seemed grateful, or even happy. That evening, Amara visited Ray after closing from the market. "Your friend came again," she said, trying to sound casual. "He brought food, and he paid for everything." Raymond forced a smile. That's kind of him. But inside, jealousy burned. "Do you like him?" he asked slowly. Amara looked at him surprised. "Why do you ask? Are you jealous?" "Why will I be?" Raymond asked. "I mean, he's rich, and he can take good care of you." Amara studied him. She knew something wasn't right, but she didn't bother to ask. "Listen, Raymond, I barely know your friend. He's nice, but I don't trust him." Although Raymond relaxed a little, Kenneth's words echoed in his mind. "If she's truly different, she won't fall for me." Kenneth wasn't one to do things halfway. If he was going to test Amara's loyalty, he would make the test impossible to ignore. The next morning, he pulled up outside the market in a wine-colored Mercedes, wearing a white native wear and sunglasses that looked like they cost more than her whole apartment. He didn't even bother honking. He just walked right up to her stall, where she was arranging her oranges. "Morning, sunshine," he said with a warm smile. "I got you something." Amara blinked as he handed her a small box wrapped in gold paper. She opened it slowly. Inside was a brand new smartphone. Her mouth dropped. "Sir, I can't accept this. It's too much." Kenneth stepped closer. "It's not too much. You deserve better, Amara. You are strong, beautiful, and humble. Any man would be lucky to have you." Amara's heart skipped, and not in a good way. His words were sweet, but they came too fast, too heavy. "I appreciate your kindness, sir," she said cautiously. "But I'm just trying to survive and not chase promises." He smiled knowingly. "You are loyal. I like that." What she didn't know was that Raymond was sitting inside a nearby barber's shop, watching everything unfold through the tinted window. Kenneth had promised to tempt her, but Raymond hadn't expected him to fall into the role so naturally, and it scared him. Later that evening, Kenneth called Raymond. "She's strong," he said. "She didn't even blink when I brought the phone. But Ray, I think she's starting to doubt who you are." Raymond rubbed his temple. "I'm not surprised. This lie is getting heavier by the day." Kenneth chuckled. Then, maybe it's time you come out clean before I make her fall for me. Raymond's grip tightened on the phone. The game was no longer just a test. It was now a race for her heart. Amara sat on the edge of her bed, the new phone still in its box beside her. It gleamed like temptation. She hadn't touched it since Kenneth gave it to her. Her heart was heavy with questions. Kenneth was rich, generous, and charming. But Ray had been there when she had nothing. Ray saw her, listened to her, made her laugh. Yet, there was something about both men that didn't add up, and it troubled her. Her mother, now regaining strength, thanks to the medications, noticed her daughter's silence. "What's bothering you, Amara?" she asked gently. Amara exhaled. "There is this man, Kenneth. He's been helping us with bills, food, and even brought a phone today. He says he's Ray's friend." Her mother smiled faintly. "And what about Ray? Don't tell me you've forgotten how he stood by us when we had nothing." "I haven't," Amara replied. "But it's confusing. Kenneth is so different, and I keep wondering, what if he's really serious about me?" At that same moment, Raymond sat with Kenneth in his private suite in a hotel on the island. No okada disguise this time. He stared blankly at the wall as Kenneth tossed a bunch of car keys on the table. "She hasn't fallen yet," Kenneth said, sipping a glass of red wine. "But she's definitely torn. The way she looks at me now, bro. She's thinking." Raymond looked up sharply. "You want her to fall, don't you?" Kenneth laughed. "Honestly, Ray, I don't know anymore. She's kind of special. But let's be real. If she can be swayed by gifts, she was never yours to begin with." Raymond stood up, fists clenched. "Back off, Ken." But Kenneth only smirked. "Then tell her the truth before I make her mine." 2 days passed. Amara tried to go about her business like nothing had changed. But everything had. Kenneth now came around almost daily, always bearing gifts, groceries, money for food, even new clothes for her mother. Amara began to feel like she was sinking in soft sand. Every kind gesture felt like a rope tightening around her freedom. And Ray? He had started showing up less. His silence stung more than she was willing to admit. That afternoon, Kenneth showed up again, this time dressed in a fitted suit and driving a sleek white Range Rover. He walked up to her like he owned the street. People stared, whispers flying. Some women already assumed she had hit a jackpot, but he didn't care. "Amara," he said, "I have something important to ask you." She looked up weary. "What now?" He held out a gold envelope. Inside it was an invitation, an exclusive dinner at a 5-star hotel on the island. "Come with me tonight. Let me show you a world where you never have to struggle again." Amara blinked, stunned. "Are you asking me out?" Kenneth smiled. "I'm offering you a better life." Raymond watched from a nearby food vendor's shade, clenched his jaw. These had gone too far. He had allowed Kenneth to test her loyalty, but he was clearly enjoying this too much. Worse, Amara looked unsure. That night, Amara sat by the window, the golden invitation in her lap. Her mother was asleep. The room was quiet, but her mind was loud. Ray hadn't come or called in 2 days. Kenneth, though overwhelming, had shown nothing but kindness. Wasn't that what every woman needed? Security? She stood up, picked up the invitation and whispered to herself, "Just dinner. No harm in that, right?" But in her heart, she knew this dinner would change everything.